I woke up in complete darkness, my head throbbing with pain. Panic surged through me as I realized I was bound and gagged, unable to move or call for help. The stench of darkness and the musty scent of old wood filled my nostrils. I tried to scream, but the clot in my mouth muffled any sound. I was trapped. My name is Emma, and I was a 19-year-old college student who had never imagined herself in such a terrifying situation. It all began on a quiet Friday night when I was walking home from a friend's house. The streets were deserted and a chill hung in the air. That's when I felt someone watching me. I quickened my pace, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling that had settled over me. But it was no use. The footsteps behind me echoed my own. I turned into a narrow alley, my heart pounding in my chest. Before I could react, a hand covered my mouth and I felt a prick in my neck. The wall blurred before my eyes and darkness swallowed me whole. Now, I was born in a small, dimly lit room, the only source of light coming from a small, barred window high above. I could make out the rusty chains hanging from the walls, remnant of this place's grim history. Fear ground at my inside, and I struggled against my restraints, but they held firm. Minutes turned into hours as I lay there, trying to come to terms with my dear predicament. I had heard stories of girls who had gone missing, never to be found again. I couldn't let that happen to me. Gathering all the strength I could muster, I began inching my way towards a jarred piece of metal on the floor. The hours turned into days, and I made slow progress in cutting the ropes that bound my wrist. I had no idea who had kidnapped me or what they wanted, but I knew I had to escape. I had to survive. One night, I heard footsteps approaching. Panic gripped me as I hastily withdrew the makeshift blade I had fashioned. The door to the room creaked open, and a man stepped inside, his face obscured by a mask. He held a tray with food and water, and as he placed it on the floor, he glanced in my direction. It was now or never. I lunged at him, slashing the blade widely. He let out a scream of pain as I managed to nick his arm. He stumbled backward, and I scrambled to my feet, my hands still bound, adrenaline pumping through my veins. I managed to push past him and ran down a dimly lit corridor. The man pursued me, but my desperation fueled my speed. I had to find a way out. I turned a corner and stumbled upon an old rusty door. It led to a staircase that descended into darkness. Without a second thought, I rushed down the stairs, my heart racing. As I descended further into the depths of the horrifying place, I could hear the man's footsteps growing fainter behind me. It seems like he had given up, but I knew I couldn't stop until I was safe. The stairs led me to a basement filled with discarded crates and broken machineries. I had to find an exit. My search eventually led me to a small window, barely large enough for me to squeeze through. With all my strength, I pushed it open and climbed out into the light. I found myself in a desolate, overgrown backyard, but I didn't stop. I ran not knowing where I was going, only that I had to put as much distance as possible between me and that dreadful place. After what felt like an eternity, I stumbled upon a road. My clothes were torn and my feet ached, but I didn't dare stop. A passing car screeched at the halt, and a kind stranger offered me help. They called the police, and I was finally on my way to safety. The authorities launched an investigation into my kidnapping, and the man who had imprisoned me was eventually captured. It turned out he was a dangerous criminal with a story of adoption and violence. I had been lucky to escape, and I couldn't help but think of all the others who hadn't been as fortunate. Life slowly returned to some semblance of normalcy, but the trauma of my harrowing experience stayed with me. I became an advocate of personal safety and self-defense, sharing my story to empower others. I knew I had survived for a reason, and that reason was to make sure no one else had to endure what I had. As I looked back on that terrifying ordeal, I reminded of the strength that can be found in the darkness of moments. I learned that courage and determination can help you conquer even the most unimaginable horrors. And although the shadows of my past will never fully fade, they serve as a reminder that survival is possible, even in the face of